Where's the camera?
Here. Okay. Hi you guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Shannon and I blog about simple solutions for six-figure debt. Today I have a really special episode for you. My husband is actually going to be joining me on this episode to share a little bit about our journey to get on the same page financially. But before we jump in, make sure you go ahead and hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Okay, so this is my husband, Dan.
Hi.
We've been married just a little over 7 years, and it honestly probably wasn't until like 5 or 6 years into our marriage when we even talked about money, right? I mean, we totally avoided it for whatever reason.
Confrontation. Didn't want to deal with it. Cause any problems with our marriage, so we just kind of buried it.
Yeah, and also just like knowing we had so much student loan debt, because we knew we had it, but we never like calculated it up. So I think just knowing that that was there, it was like, we don't even want to think about it. So our first tip for getting your spouse on board with the budget is to make sure that you pick a good time. You don't want to pick a time when you're already like fighting about money, or you're really busy with something else. I mean, a lot of the times I feel like you'd already be in a bad mood and I'm like, can we talk about selling everything we own? Because I just heard about Dave Ramsey and we need to do all these things right now to get our finances in order. And it's not good to just like spring that on somebody, right? So.
Or in the middle of a football game.
Yeah, or in the middle of a football game. Not a good idea. Definitely pick a good time, set a date, make it fun if you can, have some wine or have like a little date night and some ice cream and talk about your finances then. So tip number 2 is to focus on the why and not the what. It's not very motivating to be like, we need to not spend any money for the next month. We need to sell our car. We need to downsize in our house. Saying all of that does not sound fun, but if you say, so our kids can go to college debt-free, so we can retire and have money in the bank and set our future up. What kind of like hit home for you when we finally started talking about our finances that made you want to get on board doing Dave Ramsey, doing the budgeting?
Probably just the end goal, seeing actually the finish line. It seemed daunting just to start, but knowing that each little baby step compounded over time would lead us to where we want to be financially.
Yeah. So definitely focusing on why you're doing this. Sit down and dream together. So dream about the house you're going to buy when you're debt free, the vacations you're going to go on someday when your money's not going to debt, and just really focus on that and not focus on the sacrifices you're making now. Tip number 3 is to be ready to listen. Both people be ready to listen and be ready to compromise. So going into this, I was probably like extra crazy, like let's sell everything. I'm going to stay home, not going to go to work, and we're going to save 100% on daycare and just, gung-ho. So we definitely found compromises, like we're trading off staying home with our kids now, which saves on daycare. And even though like I want to move into a tiny house, I actually did look up a tiny house and I wanted to move into it on Facebook Marketplace. I found one and he was like, yeah, you're crazy. So making compromises, like, okay, let's get a less expensive house, maybe not a tiny house. You're more the realist and I'm more like, let's just get crazy.
Well, we compromised on cutting out eating out, which saved a lot once we saw how much we were spending on that. Compromised on what we call fun money, just buying clothes, buying toys for the kids, and we still have basically we have an allowance every month, and it was difficult trying to adjust to what's a good amount, but we both made compromises with that. And
yeah, and with that, like, even though it's an allowance, it sounds restrictive at first, but it's actually your money to spend. So you're like, okay, I have this amount every month and I can spend it on whatever I want. So it's more like freeing instead of restrictive. The baby joined us for tip number 4, show actual examples and visuals if necessary. So my husband is a super visual person. So when I start going off on my tangents, like we need to do this and this and this, and it's going to save us all this money, and we're going to be so rich someday if we just, don't spend any money now. He's like, okay, just go write it down and come show me later. So he wants to see like examples usually, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the same thing that got me through undergrad, through med school. I wasn't the one who could just listen to the lecturer talk. I needed to write it down, see it, read it in the book. If I can see it, then I picture it in my head. But everybody's different with that, and you just have to find what works best for you. And most people know.
Find out kind of what your spouse needs to understand, and kind of try to look at it from their point of view. I go by the emotions, and he wants to see real concrete numbers. So tip number 5 is to start with small changes. It's gonna be super overwhelming if you try to do this all at once, like cut your lifestyle and everything completely down in one day. So for us, one thing, like stopping the eating out and meal planning. So I talk about meal planning a lot as a great way to save money, and for us it's probably been the biggest way to save money originally from our budget. Now we're looking at downsizing our housing and trading in our car lease so that we don't have car payments. So we're doing all those things now, but it's taken us several months to actually get to where we can really get our debt snowball going.
You need to start with a plan first. You can't just try to jump into it. It's going to be overwhelming. It's just like anything with fitness and stuff. If you try to start running a marathon before you run a couple miles each and every day, you're going to quit. So we really did our homework with our food budget. We mapped out exactly what we're going to eat every day. We have a 3-week meal plan. I researched what grocery stores had the cheapest items. I check the newspaper every week when we get it with the coupons. We used to not go to the grocery store with a list. It really helped when we stick to the list. I don't go grocery shopping with the kids really anymore because we know that they're going to want cookies and treats, and that's the stuff that gets expensive. So being more organized with our lists and then actually having a plan before implementing anything really helped us.
So I hope this video was helpful to give you some ideas of how to get your spouse on board with the budget so that you guys can succeed financially. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and also comment below with how you got your spouse on board with the budget. And I will see you guys next week.